How many times have you heard someone say, my garden is my therapy or plant care is self-care, right? They're very popular terms now because they're very true. I wrote a whole book on this topic, right, plant friends? But you don't need to read the studies that I read for my book to understand that being connected to nature gives us so many gifts, perspective, gratitude, love, and as our guest would say today, reverence and reciprocity. Today's guest, my very special friend, Jessica Zweig, and I have had spookily similar experiences moving out of congested cities into nature and seeing the palpable shifts in our nervous systems and lives that have happened due to opening our hearts up to Mother Nature. So today we have a gorgeous deep dive into what we've learned. Welcome. Welcome to the Growing Joy with Plants podcast, where we not only learn how to care for plants successfully, but how to simply and affordably use our plant babies to cultivate more joy in our lives by doing so. I'm Maria, former plant killer turned happy plant lady, author of Growing Joy, The Plant Lover's Guide to Cultivating Happiness, speaker, podcaster, and most importantly, your new best plant friend. On Growing Joy with Plants, you'll find conversations about houseplant care, gardening tutorials, and wellness through the lens of plants. Plant care is self-care on Growing Joy. Welcome to Growing Joy, plant friends. If you're new here, I'm Maria. I'm here to help you care for plants and grow joy while doing so. And if you're a returning listener, what an honor. Welcome back. I'm so happy to be part of your journey. I have to say, plant friends, this episode feels very vulnerable for me to share with you. I, at this point, have almost 250 episodes on the podcast, mostly about plant care, right? Because it's my mission to help you care for plants successfully so that you can grow joy in your life while doing so, right? The joy comes from the success. So the majority of my podcasts focus on setting you up and empowering you to care for plants successfully so you can reap the emotional benefits that come from plants. And yes, I have written an entire self-help book called Growing Joy on the subject of how to grow joy with plants. And I've shared in bits and pieces how nature has helped me heal my depression and heal my burnout. But I have not shared how deeply spiritually connected I feel to nature, to Mother Earth, to Gaia. Those are all words we're going to use interchangeably today. Publicly, I've kind of kept my spiritual journey with plants a little private as I've shared publicly about my mental health journey with plants. But there's a much deeper rooted connection that I have to Mother Nature that I've been a little bit shy to share with you. I think I haven't shared because I haven't wanted to scare anyone off, right? I haven't wanted anyone to be like, oh, unsubscribe, she's a weirdo. She's talking to trees, or like she's really celebrating that everything is living. But if their show has taught me anything, it's usually if I'm thinking about it, someone else's too. So today I'm diving deep. I'm diving deep with my deeply spiritual friend, Jessica Zweig. You might know her as the author of one of my favorite and most recommended marketing books for entrepreneurs. It's called Simply Be. If you're an entrepreneur or a human, you should absolutely read this book. But she has a new book called The Light Work. And today, Jessica joins me for probably the most spiritual conversation that we've had on this podcast, all about Mother Nature. We call her Gaia. Gaia is actually the original term, I believe, from the Greeks, that is nature personified as a goddess. And I do believe that nature is worthy of reverence. That's what we talk about, of worship. And man, this conversation is just so deep. I hope it touches your heart as much as it touched mine. I hope you get her book, The Light Work. It's really a very beautiful book. There's a whole chapter on Gaia, on Mother Earth in it, which we talk about today. Let me know, seriously, please let me know if this episode resonates with you, because I feel like I want to have more conversations like this on the podcast, but I also always want to check in with you because I'm making this podcast for you. So without further ado, here is my dear friend, Jessica Zweig, and our beautiful conversation about our reverence and reciprocity with Gaia. I've noticed that flower essences, you've been sharing more about it. So before we dive into Gaia, Mother Earth, energy codes, let's just get this party started and jump into how did you discover flower essences and how do you use them to support your nervous system? Because I think the Growing Joy listeners will be very curious.
Yeah, I've been working with flower essences for quite some time. And then I partnered this year with Lotus Way, which is one of my brand partners for my podcast. And you can go to lotusway.com, use code The Light Work and get 10% off.
Love it.
But the founder is a light worker, and she and I met, and she said, if 1% of the planet was on flower essences, this world would be like basically healed. What it does is you can take flower essences as tinctures. You can use them as aura sprays, and you can also rub actual essential oils on your body, and it maps your body's frequency to the bioenergetic frequency of the flower. And flowers have all different codes and have different medicines. And so if you're struggling with anxiety, if you're struggling with self-love, if you're struggling with confidence, there's a flower essence for you at Lotus Way. And I just, being in this time when we were just talking about before we recorded, where I'm launching a new book and it's just such an expansive chapter, but also to what you were saying, which I really received, the book is so vulnerable and raw. It's been a lot of big feelings coming up. So I use flower essences. I use a lot of things, Maria. I am a toolkit girl when it comes to making sure my body is regulated, and nature and rooting. I know we're going to talk about that today is obviously is really the biggest one.
Yeah, I love it. Well, my friend, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. You've been a dear, Instagram turned real life friend of mine for a couple of years. We have so many spooky alignments in our life. The more I learn about you, the more I'm like, what is going on with the weird parallels of our lives? And one of those things we've connected about is our deep love for Mother Nature and how she's our toolkit. She's part of the toolkit for living a joyful, activated, light-filled life. So I hope you all know about Jessica Zweig, sweet listeners. I've talked about her first book on multiple occasions from a branding perspective. But if you don't know this glorious nature goddess sitting with me, Jessica, can you give a brief introduction of you? But I'm more interested in the nature side of you as well. Yeah. So I'd love to hear about your evolution of connecting with nature and growing together with her as you've grown your business.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to officially thank you for having me and allowing me to come onto your beautiful podcast to speak to your beautiful community. You are a light worker, Maria Failla, and I've loved our sisterhood since the second I fell in love with you on Instagram. So,
me too.
Quick Cliff's Notes, but connecting to my journey with nature, because frankly, the turning point of my last couple of years had everything to do with nature. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've started 3 businesses. My second business that I ran for 7 years, I sold that business about 6 months ago. And during those 7 years, I was running it out of Chicago. And I lived in the city of Chicago for 20 years and built that business from nothing. It was a total beautiful expression of my purpose. Built a beautiful culture, created a methodology, wrote a book, changed thousands of lives with that book, helped people build their brands. But there was a real toxic sort of hustle that required, or at least I thought it required, to make that business grow at the pace that it grew. And I found myself about 5.5 years into that 7-year journey, just completely disconnected from my true self, burnt out, not actual Instagram burnout, but physically, mentally, emotionally, creatively diagnosed with depression burnout. And I was serendipitously planning to transition from Chicago to Nashville to rent this beautiful house my husband had found on 10 acres of land because we just wanted to live here. That's where I'm based now. And we're looking at buying a house, but let's rent an Airbnb for a few months and just get to know it better. So I found myself, after living in a concrete jungle, living in apartment buildings, high rises, concrete blocks. I like to say that I slept above someone, below someone, and next to someone, right side, left side for 20 years, literally, to going to this house on 10 acres of land in the middle of the woods and sleeping there in that energy for the first time in my life. And I will say that that's when everything unraveled, but everything was really revealed. And being connected, I've always, who doesn't love to travel and get into a hike or go to a beach, but to literally immerse myself as a lifestyle in nature actually changed my entire life. I decided from that moment to really, frankly, kind of disrupt and uproot my life out of a big city so that I could be closer to nature, to get more into alignment with what my gifts are and what I want to do with my career and my business. And everything has sort of been devoted to Mother Earth with my work over these last few years as I healed from the burnout, sold the business, wrote the second book. I'm doing a new thing now. It all comes back to Gaia. And yeah, that's the Cliff's Notes version of me.
Yeah. I mean, talk about spooky alignment. I feel like you could have literally just explained my life experience as well, going from 500 square feet to 5 acres. Yeah. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And I just feel like it's hard because I'm like, that is the answer. That was the answer for me. And that is the answer for you, getting out of the city and into the country. but not everyone has the luxury of just like running for the hills like we did. And so sometimes when I talk about it, I'm like, gosh, but I do think there are different layers. There's different ways that even if you're living in the city, like I feel like if I had to go live in a city now, there are different things that I would do, like listening to recordings of birdsong instead of traffic, and having blackout shades so I could actually experience true darkness at night, and things that I've learned about living in the country. But yeah, you just immediately start seeing things differently, and you don't understand how polluted your life experiences is by modern society. We're two people who have had the spooky alignment in moving from the city to the country. Not a lot of people have had our specific experience. So I wanted to ask you, what have been some of the main like aha moments for you since you've moved to the country that have allowed you to reconnect with nature in a way and help with your burnout and with the big transitions you've gone through?
Well, first of all, I've become a bird watcher. Like
Me too.
Lots of binoculars, and got the little guidebook to Tennessee birds.
I have it like right next to me. And also, do you use the Merlin app?
You told me about this, Maria.
Okay.
I have to get
I'm
that app.
obsessed with the Merlin app.
I know
too.
you are. I know you are. So getting connected to wildlife, and having possums and deer and armadillos. Like I'm in Nashville where those things exist. I saw a turtle walking down like the side of the highway a couple months ago. Like
amazing.
Just the magic of that, you know, and getting to see it, to touch it, to know that I'm an intrinsic part of it, right? When you're in a big city, you don't see that kind of thing. And really building a relationship with nature through animals and wildlife, groundhogs, squirrels, like I'm here for all of the things. I really would say that nature talks. I literally can communicate with trees. I know that sounds wild, but maybe not to your audience.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
We
have a tree communication episode coming out also.
Amazing. I need to listen to that. Like they have different personalities, and they have different energy, and they have different things they want you to know about them. And really, when you're out of any sort of, and I really want to double click what you said, like it is a privilege to be able to like move cities and change your lifestyle. And you came to visit me once in Chicago when you were on my podcast, and I took you into my house because I wanted to show you all my plants. And I lived in this beautiful condo building, and out in the front was this big sort of display and landscape architecture of like bushes and trees that was part of my building. And you pointed it out. You're like, this is beautiful. And people walk by this every day and they don't even acknowledge or appreciate it. And so I have the luxury of living in a naturist place where I can appreciate nature all the time, but it's available wherever we go if we're willing to tune to it. And I would say that I'm still running a business. I'm in the middle of a book launch. I was just talking to Marie about this before the podcast started, and it's a lot. You know, I think we go through seasons of sprinting, and right now I'm in a very big season, and I try every week, at least once or twice a week, to go take a long hike. If I can't take a hike, I like to take a walk to my local park. It's like a 10-minute walk just to sit in the park and literally like soak in the nature of the trees that are in this city arid park. And I really feel like a couple weeks ago, I was having a really stressful week. I blocked off a Friday morning. I went for a 2-hour hike, and I literally walked out of that hike completely different. I really feel nature is free therapy. It harmonizes your energy body, your physiology, your physicality as much as it does your nervous system. And it's all connected. I'm just a softer, more slow, more patient, more embodied version of myself when I'm around and rooted. And I talk about the experience of rooting. I have a whole chapter in my book, which I know you want to talk about, called Gaia. And I realized in the last few years just how out of my body I was, because I was running at this pace. I was drinking all the coffee. I was not connecting to nature. I was constantly stimulated, constantly on, and how disruptive and how much dis-ease that caused my body because I was disconnected from Gaia. And so it has been central to my healing, and my life as it stands today is having the access to nature that I do.
And for those listening, Gaia is a name for Mother Nature. Gaia is do you know the
Greek? Yeah, the original word came from Greek mythology. Gaia is essentially the name of Mother Earth. It's her personification.
The summer brings tons of opportunities to give gifts, whether it's for weddings, graduations, showers, anniversaries, holidays, and what better gift to give someone you love than a personalized Wind River wind chime. Plus, You don't need to leave your house to shop for one. Wind River Chimes will deliver the most magical, most thoughtful, and personalized gift straight to the door of your beloveds, because when you use the code GROWINGJOY at checkout, you get a free engraving on any engravable wind chime, so you can personalize it for your loved one with a special saying, a memorable date, or a name. For over 35 years, Wind River Chimes has been passionately pursuing harmony by delivering wind chimes that help create a peaceful, soothing, and restful environment. And now that we are in the swing of gardening season, enjoy the perfect gardening weather with the perfectly calming and inspiring sound of Wind River Chimes. Every night in the summer, I sit on my balcony garden with a drink, just listening to the chimes in the wind, looking at the stars. It's a freaking dream, and it makes an amazing gift for yourself or for someone else. So all you have to do is to go to windriverchimes.com and use code GROWINGJOY at checkout to get a free engraving on any engravable wind chime. They have options of colors and sounds. You can just go on the website and click through and listen to all the beautiful sounds. It's so relaxing. Get it engraved with that personalized name or anniversary date or special message. Head to windriverchimes.com to listen to all of the melodious options and use code GROWINGJOY for a free engraving. If you're feeling called to reconnect with the earth and maybe even add homesteading to your list of hobbies, very similarly to the way me and Jessica have evolved, you should check out a new book called Simple Country Living by Annette Thurman. So Simple Country Living is a practical guidebook focused on the garden and kitchen know-how. With recipes, tips, tricks, and family activities, it will help you reduce waste, save money, and harness new skills that will connect you to nature. You'll learn how to create a natural and nature-inspired home, indoors and out. In addition to learning the essentials for gardening, you'll learn how to preserve your harvest, embrace garden-to-table eating with seasonal recipes, reducing food waste, learning how to stock a resilient homestead pantry, making DIY cleaning sprays, natural egg dyes, and so much more. You could spend years working your way through all of the things this book has to offer. So no matter where you live or what skills you already have, Simple Country Life can be more than a state of mind. Check it out for yourself. Grab Simple Country Living by Annette Thurman at your favorite local bookstore, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, or Amazon.com. That's Simple Country Living by Annette Thurman. Yeah. And what I have found is I moved to the country in a season of really intense grief and really intense change. I had lost my job as a performer.
Right.
I had lost one of the strongest female relationships in my life. I had a huge falling out with one of my female mentors. I was just in a really tough spot. And I think too, when you have grief, when you have anxiety, you can give it to Gaia. You can give it to Mother Nature. I had this kooky experience last weekend. I was at a retreat and we were doing this process of alchemizing your past trauma. And I aligned my spine with the tree that was literally growing through the studio. We were in Mexico and in this open jungle studio, and the tree was growing through the studio. And I aligned my spine with the tree and I started breathing, and I just felt the grief run out of my spine into the tree. And she was like, I've got you. I've got you. I can take this. I can handle this.
Yes.
And I think, she's so useful and regulating, and also the perspective. It's when you get into the mind jumble of, did my podcast get this many downloads this week? Did I get enough sponsors? Did I have a good podcast interview? Did I do this? All this stupid minutia that doesn't matter in 50 years. If you go look at a tree that's been around here way before you were and will be around here way after, it's hard to leave your nature walk, like you said. It's hard to leave the hike with the same problems as you're oh yeah, I don't actually really matter in the long scheme of things. Of course we do matter, but the perspective that it brings is so helpful.
Yes. Oh, I have so much to say about this. I love that example, right? Of the tree taking your grief and you feeling that alchemy in your body. There's so much to learn from nature. And one of my favorite, speaking of trees, things to really look at outside my window is the pure neutrality of a tree or the pure existence of nature and its pace. We live in such a busy time. I heard someone say on a podcast recently that we are living, as humanity is concerned, at the slowest pace it'll ever be, which is insane to think about. It's only going to get faster. It feels like with the adoption of AI and social media and the internet and just electric cars, technology at large, it's only this is slow.
Yeah.
And yet you look at nature and it operates perfectly in cycles and rhythms and seasons and deaths and rebirths. And we are nature. We are one with nature. We've been uprooted, disconnected, disassociated, like I said, far, far away from her in these, what I lived in, concrete jungles and steel glass buildings. And to really attune to her pace, which is crazy for people to think about how slow that would require you to move. But that's really how we heal. And that's how we harmonize. And the other thing I want to say, I see trees and I like see them on my hike and I'll stop and I like to hug them and I like to ask them for permission, at least to give them an acknowledgement that I'm going to hug them. And Mother Earth, Gaia, she gives us so much. She supported you in that moment, right? And when it comes to one of the biggest codes of Gaia that I write about in my book is reciprocity. Like, let's give what we take and take what we give. And I think your entire platform is one big give back to Mother Nature. I mean, you are living in reciprocity. So you give that tree all your grief because look at what you're doing for the earth right now. But just to say to your community, and I say this to myself, as a practice, like we take from her, we take her resources, we pillage her, we use her materials. And like, are we giving back? Are we even giving back our gratitude? And to really live in right relationship, which is something my coach has taught me in every single exchange, whether that's with human beings or with the earth. But right relationship is such a principle that and I don't think anyone's bad for this, but we've kind of lost our way around it. And we take for granted, not just the beauty of Gaia, which was what we've been talking about this whole time, but the service of Gaia. And how do we really devote our lives, no matter how big or small the action, to repay it and to turn our intentions to ensuring that there's an equilibrium here, which creates harmony, which creates peace in our lives as much as it does our own unique systems and bodies. And so I just think connecting to Gaia is so layered to say that. And it offers such a beautiful invitation to heal the world.
Yeah. And not just ourselves, because we definitely are in a, well, what can I get? Society. And we need to shift into what can I give? And Mother Nature, this is so funny. This is the second interview I've done today where the book The Giving Tree has come up, but it's that amazing concept, Gaia codes. Okay, well, first off, you've written an unbelievable book. I don't share about my spiritual journey that much on this podcast, but I feel so seen in this amazing book that you've written, The Light Work, Reclaim Your Feminine Power, Live Your Cosmic Truth, and Illuminate the World. You're such an embodiment of this book. You're such an embodiment of the light work and shining your light bravely and unapologetically to remind all of us that we can do that too. And that's available to us. And I thank you for giving Gaia an entire chapter. I was so tickled and pleased when I opened your book and I said, and I thought, oh my God, there's a whole chapter on Mother Nature in here. This is amazing. So, because I think sometimes with the light work, people think light work, you're in your head, you're in the spirit realm, you're talking to aliens, you're doing these things. And sometimes people bypass the rootedness that's so important here. So you talk about the frequency of Gaia and also Gaia's codes that she's given you. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So thank you I'm like getting emotional for some reason. The chapter Gaia in the book is honestly, I think, my favorite chapter.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good.
Thank you for saying that. I had to do the most research for that chapter. That chapter has more footnotes in the back of the book than any other chapter because I really wanted to get that chapter right. I wanted to ground the reader in facts and history and data around what's happening right now on our planet, what happened at the dawn of civilization when humanity started to form and how our relationship with Gaia has evolved as the patriarchy has taken over the last 4,000 years. I really, I hold that chapter so sacred. And I wrote that chapter when I was in Costa Rica in the midst of the jungle. So I had like such flow writing that chapter. And back to your point around the light work and the spirituality and like ascending, leaving your body, connecting to aliens. That was basically my life for most of my adult life. And I am a very spiritual person. I'm coming out of the spiritual closet with this book in a big, major way.
In a big way. Yeah.
And I loved for the longest time, because I'm so connected, because I do have a really deep relationship with my spirit team and I'm pretty clairaudient and I have done enough plant medicines to know about other realms in this world. I loved leaving. I loved leaving my body, loved leaving this earth plane to ascend out of my body to connect more with my homies up there called my star families and spirit guides, whatnot. And it wasn't until the last few years along this healing journey, getting into balance, healing my nervous system, truly changing my life, that I realized just how incredible and exceptional and magical this planet is.
Mm-hmm.
And to not want to leave, that this is the place to be, Gaia. Like, look at the millions.
She's the coolest.
She's the coolest.
She's the coolest. Yeah.
And we've chosen to come here to experience her. Like, this is just such a gift to be on planet Earth, despite how dark and heavy it is. And so to this frequency of Gaia, I mean, she is the great mother. You know, she is here with endless, eternal, infinite, divine love. And we are a piece of that love. We are a part of that love. We are connected to trees. We are connected to rivers. We're connected to mountains. We're connected to each other, most of all. Mm-hmm. And that we all have to have our own ego and identity. And that's a beautiful thing about being a human. But to really lift the veil, in a sense of what I'm trying to accomplish with that chapter, is that we're all connected. You know, we all share her frequency, that the reason we've incarnated here is to experience this love, this vibration of love for the planet, which equals love for humanity, which equals love for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that is like the greatest daily devotion, sacred commitment you can make in your life. And the codes of Gaia. So this came to me, if I may tell the little quick story.
Please.
About
I was going to ask you too. So yeah.
So 2 years ago on Earth Day, I was outside in my backyard in that house I was renting in the middle of 10 acres, and I was meditating. And I am very connected to all the things. And a spirit guide entered my meditation. And she was a Native American woman from hundreds of years before who had lived on the land. Tennessee is actually known for having a large contingency of Native American peoples. And she told me her name was White Eagle. And she looked like she was 100 years old. I could see the crevices in her skin. She had long gray braids. She was wearing this beautiful white outfit, and she was filled with so much sadness. And she told me in this meditation that she was about to die. Before she died, she could see the colonizers coming in and pillaging and raping and destroying her people and her land, and the grief that she had shared. I could hold her grief. I could feel the sadness that she felt for her lineage. I'm a white girl from Chicago. You know, I was like, what can I offer you? How can I, in my whiteness, offer you solace? And what do you need me to know? What do I need to do? How can I help restore? And she said, there are two codes to this planet. It is reverence and reciprocity. And reciprocity we just discussed. And I use that word every day. And I look at my life through that lens, like give what I take in every transaction, whether it's a business contract or I tip my server for great service. Like everything is a give and take. But reverence, I journaled about it. She said, reverence is the bare minimum. Reverence is deeper than respect. Reverence is a deep bow of humility and awe. And that it's easy to revere a sunset. It's beautiful. It's easy to revere birds chirping. It's not always easy to revere what triggers us or what feels uncomfortable or different or unlike us. And I'm really speaking about identity, right? And that we might not see ourselves in a different impoverished community, or people who don't agree with our political beliefs, or trigger us on Instagram because they're living their hot girl summer and we think they're full of themselves. Like, we have to have reverence for all living creatures, just like those colonizers didn't have reverence for White Eagle's people. And if we follow the codes of Gaia in reciprocity for all and reverence for all, truly for all, we will live in a harmonic reality where everyone gets to thrive. And I'm not going to change the world with that one statement, but I can change the world and that action and those beliefs and those choices, but I can change my world, and I can change the world of the people that I touch. And that creates a ripple effect like a pebble in a pond. And if we all stepped into that identity and that consciousness, like what a world that would be. And so the chapter in the book is called Gaia, the reason for your light being, like you're being here as a light worker. This is the reason we're here, as much as we're here to heal our trauma and transmute pain and love our bodies and heal our relationships and all the things I talk about and live in abundance in the book. But to me, that chapter is the most important message to say what we're really all here for. And yeah, thank you for letting me share that. It's one of my favorite stories in the book.
If you have dreams of growing on acres, or if you're growing on a balcony like me, Gardener Supply Company has you covered with everything you need for successful indoor and outdoor growing. From containers to raised beds, seeds to plant supports, they've got it all to create your dream garden oasis, particularly if you're feeling inspired after today's episode to connect to the earth and growing things. They even sell edging and walkways so you can curate and design the most aesthetically appealing garden of your dreams. If you haven't heard of them already, Gardener Supply Company is a garden company that I love, run by gardeners. For over 40 years, they've been selling garden essentials and sharing helpful advice to make growing easier, more comfortable, and more fun for everyone. You might have seen their gorgeous raised cedar beds on my Instagram when I did a garden install for my sister a couple of months ago, or maybe you've noticed their gorgeous trellises and arches all over Instagram. They are so iconic. They've also been earth-friendly from the beginning. Gardener Supply Company was one of the early providers of organic gardening supplies and humane pest control solutions, and they have always strived for a positive environmental impact through the products they sell, the advice they give, and the causes they champion. Don't just take it from me, plant friends. Whatever you need in your garden this year, Gardener Supply Company has it. Discover your garden favorites and exclusive innovations at gardeners.com/growingjoy and use code growingjoy for free shipping. Let's grow together. That's gardeners.com/growingjoy. It's so beautiful. It's making me think too, this concept of reverence and reciprocity, and even how Gaia interacts with the sun. And that the sun, which gives light, right? The source of light, and the reverence and respect that they have for each other, and how you can't have one without the other. Well, I guess you could have the sun without Gaia, but you can't have Gaia without the sun. But anyway, that's an interesting thread I want to pull at a later date with you. Can you talk a little bit about the journey that you took to the middle of the jungle, meeting with that culture that was truly still living in symbiosis with the earth? What does that look like? And what a cool experience. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, you got to go. The Kichwa Anangu tribe. So my best friend Megan and I, we like to go crazy places. And we took a trip to Ecuador a couple of years ago, and we went deep, deep, deep into the Ecuadorian basin. We had to take a plane, a bus, a riverboat, a hike, a canoe. It was like a 6.5 hour, maybe longer journey to get literally to the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And we step into this portal, and it was like Jurassic Park. It's like movie, I've been to Costa Rica, like fun, jungle Jessica vibes. This is the jungle. Yeah. Unlike anything you've ever experienced in your life. The noises, the sounds, the birds. We saw jaguar, monkeys, the smells, the insects, you're literally the heat, all of it. You're so, so far away from quote unquote reality. And in my view, that's reality.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and I'd love for your listeners to go read the book, because I talk about this trip in detail in that Gaia chapter. There was a, indigenous tribe that we were with, and the place where we were staying only had male staff, because the men come on a canoe an hour and a half away from their village every 3 weeks. And then they go home for a week and come back. And then we went to the village, and it was all women and children. And there was this maternal, divine feminine experience with the men at this property that loved us, that took care of us, that were so kind. They were so gentle. Megan and I were like, we've never experienced men like this. And then we went to visit the village, and the women were in their divine masculine and were tougher and more grounded, and were tending families and building huts and making food and tribal dancing, and had this raw masculinity in them. And I was like, there's, that symbol of yin and yang. This is a society, a civilization, a tribe that has never messed with any external or resources. They sustain everything. Mm-hmm. And it was this, I said this to my friend Lauren once. I was like, I could touch the harmony. I'd never experienced a palpable sense of harmony in all living things in my life. And my heart aches when I think of that place because I'm like, God, if we could touch that all the time.
Yeah. And how like it really can live within both of us. I mean, you and I are both fire signs. Like I would say we've both been in our masculine for a healthy amount of our lives as we shift into the feminine. But like it's healthy for the balance to be there in each person and for men as well. And gender is a spectrum. Like for every being,
Yes,
it makes sense for both of these energies to be in our bodies, just like they are with Gaia. And also it sounds like this community lived in such reciprocity with Gaia as well.
reciprocity and reverence.
Yeah.
I mean, I touched it for a few days and
Amazing.
It changed my life.
Frankie, my bird, has started chirping really loud. The minute
I
you
heard
started
him.
talking about masculine, he was like, oh, that's me. You know, like he's like, oh yeah, I'm in for this. I'm here for this. So I love that we have only honed in on a fraction of the chapter of your book, but your book is so much more than just chit-chatting about Gaia, that you've written such an expansive spiritual text that I think everybody should read. It's so interesting. I feel so seen in so many of your chapters. And I also know that as I continue to come back to this book and as I continue on my spiritual journey, I will continue feeling more and more seen, because there's some stuff right now that I feel still, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like the Pleiadians, that's interesting. I haven't had my galactic activations yet, but I feel like when I do, I'll be able to come back to this book and get even more out of it, even though right now your Gaia chapter and your joy and happiness chapter, which we didn't even get to talk about, it's so amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about the book, where people can get it? Today is your book's birthday with the episode dropping, so happy birthday to your book. Where can we find the book and also follow you in your journey?
The best place to go right now, as of today, is thelightworkbook.com. And you can buy your book there from any retailer. And then when you submit your order number, I send you a whole bunch of bonuses. And one of the best of the bonuses is my Lionsgate virtual celebration happening on August 8th, and just 2 days from now, which is Lionsgate. It's a spiritual day.
Nature.
It's also 2024. So it's 888. 2024 equals 8. So it's 888. It's one of the most auspicious days of the year when it comes to manifestation and abundance, because 8 is the number of money and infinite. It's infinity. It's infinite possibilities. And I'm going to be with Michael Beckwith, Koya Webb, Daniel Page, who's an astrologer. It's a beautiful live stream event. And I would love for your community to come meet me over there.
I'll be there for sure.
You better be. The book is a complete spiritual empowerment book, roadmap, guidebook, cosmic homecoming to the truth of who you are.
Yeah.
As a feminine being on this planet, but I believe anybody can take a lot of things away from it. And if you're a hyper-performing, hyper-vigilant woman who's probably struggled with a lot of darkness, because that's kind of what burnout and heartbreak and sister wounds and family trauma and money scarcity, like I talk about all of it.
You talk about all of it. About all of it. It's incredible.
Thank you. I go there. I went there. I don't even know really why. I feel like my higher self wrote this book.
Yeah.
Not kidding.
It's a full send. It's a full send into the spiritual realms.
It is. Yeah. But I feel like I wrote it in a way that makes it very accessible to anybody, no matter what you believe.
Absolutely.
And you can come find me on Instagram at Jessica Zweig. I also have a podcast called The Spiritual Hustler that Maria's been on.
Oh yeah, which I've been a guest on.
Yeah.
Such a good conversation.
Come say hi to me.
Yeah. We will make sure everything is in the show notes. I will be at the Lionsgate activation, Plant Friends. So I hope you will be too. I've already sent your book pre-ordered. We're obviously doing this interview early. I've pre-ordered and sent it to so many friends where I'm like, you have to read this book. Thank
you.
Yeah, of course. Of course, my friend.
I love you. You're my friend. And I'm so grateful that I got the chance to come onto your podcast. You're an inspiration to me when it comes to podcasters and building platform and brand and just the business you've built, the community you've built. I'm genuinely in awe of you. And I'm very honored to have been here today.
Oh, me too. Likewise. And to having you back on, maybe let us know, Plant Friends, if maybe we can have a plant medicine episode in the future one day.
We could go there anytime you want.
Let us know if you want us to go there, Plant Friends. All right, Plant Friends, that's our sweet conversation. Let me know what you thought about it. My door is always open. You can email me at Maria@growingjoywithmaria or DM me at growingjoywithmaria on socials. Go buy The Light Work by Jessica Zweig. It's such a fascinating read. And like I said, Some of the book is still over my head at this point, but a lot of it deeply resonates. And I can see myself every year going back to the book and feeling more and more seen as I kind of unfurl in this journey to reconnecting with nature in a deeper way. There's so much more to share here should you be interested in learning more. So let me know. My door's always open to hear from you. I hope this episode was inspiring and that it helps you on your journey to continue caring for plants and, more importantly, growing joy while doing so. Plant friend, thank you for tuning in today. It means so much to me that I get to be part of your planty journey. If you like what you heard, make sure you're subscribed to the show so you never miss an episode. We have so many incredible interviews and solo episodes on incredible houseplant and gardening topics that you will not want to miss this year. And while you're over there in the podcast player subscribing, why don't you click over to the review section of Growing Joy with Plants and leave us a review? Reviews are tremendously helpful for the growth of the podcast, so thanks in advance. If you're looking for more opportunities to grow as a plant parent with Growing Joy content, we've got so many options for you. First, I highly recommend you taking the Plant Parent Personality Test. It's free, it's super fun, it takes 3 minutes to complete. At the end of the test, you're going to get your Plant Parent Personality profile and a curated list of plants, projects, and podcast episodes that are right up your alley, tailored just for you and your lifestyle, inspired by your results. The links are in the show notes. If you're looking to uplevel your plant parent game, I have so many free downloads on my website that I think could help you, like the Understanding Natural Light download or 9 different ways to green up your office space. If you'd like to support the show monetarily and help me bring the show to as many people as possible for free, you can head to our Patreon link in the show notes to learn more about our offerings. And finally, I invite you to come hang out with me and continue the planty conversation on social media on Instagram and TikTok. I'm Growing Joy with Maria. My DMs are always open if you have requests for topics or ideas for the show. Thank you again for listening. It is truly my honor and delight to help you keep blooming and keep growing joy.